type 2, I'm looking for correct answers. I specifically, they have to underline what I'm looking for. They don't even have to write lines sometimes. It's just, I give quizzes all the time as type 2s. Like, give me name 4 things that you learned yesterday, underline them, and if they're not underlined, then you don't get credit for it. So it's to the point. It's easier to grade for me. My type 1s are, 0 to 4. They get to get so many lines. That's easy to grade. But now I'm looking for specific material related to my content that I'm focusing in on.
Type 2 writing includes a right and or a wrong answer. A type 2 writing creates a little more healthy anxiety in my students. Type 2 writing is much more like a quiz.
Than type 1s.
Oh, type 2s, I love them. They are the anti-internet quiz. They're different because you're asking for a specific answer, a right answer. You can still skim them and you're looking for certain things. But as an English teacher, when I assign chapters to read from a novel for that evening, they can read the summary all they want online. They can take online quizzes about the chapter. They can read essays all they want because they don't know what type 2 they're getting the next day. I always give them a type 2 about a chapter they've read. And I tell them it's nothing that will trick them. I don't say, what's the 5th word on page 7? I said it'll be a turning point in the chapter, a place where a character was developed, or the setting played an important role, something literary that as they're actually reading it, which is always nice, and they're reading it with a purpose in mind.
What makes type 2s different is you are looking for a specific answer. So you may start a question of, what do you know about Donald Trump? What do you know about Hillary Clinton? And your students can write 5 lines. Hey, I saw this on TV, I saw that on TV. And it may be correct, it may not. A type 2 would be more specific of, tell me in 5 lines, what is Donald Trump's stance on Obamacare? You are looking for a specific thing. In my classroom, to help grade them, I take the type 2s and I say highlight your 1 or 2 best reasons depending on how long that type 2 is.
The thing I like about a type 2 is now I'm giving a score. So I'm checking for understanding. I'm helping the students in a way by giving them a score for their thoughts, for correct answers. It also builds their confidence. Usually when I'm asking a type 2, I put it in a way so that for the most part the students are recalling information from a previous day, trying to get them back on task for a continued lesson. Something that they should know, should not be difficult for them. So it's kind of easy points.
Type 2 is you are checking to make sure that they got the learning from before, the homework that night. You're checking for understanding. Don't have to do them at the beginning of class. Can do it as a ticket out the door. Can do it at the middle of class. You want to figure out, are the kids grasping the information that you're trying them to get?
It holds the kids accountable, especially I think as you get to kids that are more advanced in their thinking, AP kids, advanced English kids. I think sometimes a type 1 is just a little bit too easy for them. In an AP kid's mind, they're like, let's get to something. Why am I wasting my time? It's almost like you're teaching Derek Jeter how to throw a baseball. And he's like, hey man, I can do that.
Well, if you want the students to if you want to gauge how well you taught the students or how well they understand what you've taught them, giving a type 2 is the better option because it's a definite answer that you're looking for. And sometimes they're easier to check because you just look for the word that you're looking for in the answer.
I would say with the type 2, be sure that the question is thorough enough that they can answer it plainly and concisely. If you make it too difficult or too complex, if there's too many levels to it, then the student will not be able to properly answer or give you the answer that you're looking for.
As I said, have the kids highlight what they think is their best response. It's easier for you to grade. You're only looking at those highlighted answers, and that's where they'll put the focus in. So you can knock out, I have 155 students. My class size are 25 to 26. You can go through these relatively quickly, just like you were checking something like a multiple choice.
Or the teacher. Repetition. At first, when I get new classes, they're very panicky. They lose sleep at night wondering what type of type 2 question I'm going to ask them when it comes to their reading. But as we do more of them, they get in a groove of the type of question I ask, and I think as they continue through the year reading chapters, they're reading chapters in a way that they're picking things out on their own that I may ask, that have some depth to it.
Be patient. At one point, I wasn't timing the type 2s, and I think that is a mistake. We also have learned through different professional development that type 2s were made to not only be timed, but the suggestion was to give the students a very odd time. Do not say that they have 60 seconds to complete something, but instead make it 62 seconds. There's a hint or an element of entertainment, of curiosity to why you're doing that, but eventually it's going to create a balance in the students' thought processes of how they are going to generate their thoughts and avoid any distractions. It's really a neat concept.
To make type 2 writings go more smoothly, one of the things is sometimes maybe you start assigning them and then you're like, oh my gosh, I have all these papers and I didn't get them corrected, and you need to get them back to students quickly so it's effective. And so I think one of the things to do is make sure that you have a system where you can have the students self-correct their answers or correct each other so that you don't get lost in the paperwork and then they lose their whole effectiveness if the students don't get the feedback in a timely manner.
Teacher.
Best thing to do is have it on the board when the student comes in. You type 2, grab the sheet as you come in, sit down, let's get started. It allows me to do some of the maintenance that I need to do while they're writing and getting started. Students stagger in because they're coming from all different directions, so it really kind of gets things settled. If you don't have it on the board and you just try to read it to the student, once everybody's in, once you've done that maintenance, now you're 10 minutes into class, so you've lost that time. The other thing is you end up repeating your question 4 or 5 times while the students are thinking, trying to get something down, and then they're like, what was that again? So best to have it on the board.
I'd like to share something about types 1s and 2s, so sort of answer your question, sort of not. With type 1 and type 2 writings, I have found much success with giving students a particular formatted paper. At the beginning of the year, I had them use notebook paper in a particular section of their binder. There's nothing wrong with that. The students draw a line. When they're finished, they date it each time. I never request a student to actually rewrite a prompt. I just want them to get to it. I want them to get to their line minimums or the right or wrong answer. I would suggest for most teachers, especially ones who are trying the type 1s and 2s at first, to create a very simple document for students to know that this is the expected paper to use during class time in their class. There are so many classrooms, teachers who are doing this already, so it won't be something that is distracting to students. I think it's actually a welcomed practice.
If you can use questions that you might put on a quiz or a test later on, the better it's going to be for the students. The more we quiz them, the more they learn it.
That one takes practice. It took a little bit of practice for me, and I think it's more of the comfort of trying to realize that they're coming up with the answers, even though they may not be exactly what I was looking for. They are technically correct answers. So probably make sure that if you're really looking for something specific, that your type 2s are crafted so that you're really kind of making them funnel into that correct answer that you're looking for. And that took a little bit of time for me to kind of come up with, and I'm still not by any means fantastic with that. I still find myself saying, "Oh, I really didn't think about it that way," and you're right. But if I really know that I'm looking for something very specific, like a short, almost like using it like a quiz, I really have to make sure that I design it right so that it's definitely funneled towards that answer I'm looking for.
I use them once, twice a week. They're I don't give quizzes as much as I used to, so they're my quizzes now. They're simple, easy, right to the point, and it involves writing, but it's not as involved as a type 1, but they're my answers, so that's what I'm looking for.
I said I do them more often than type 1s, and at first I thought, oh, that's wrong, but now I like them. And I don't think there's anything wrong with being a little heavy on the type 2s. Type 1s definitely have their purpose, but type 2s just really help me as a teacher, so I recommend them.